Obviously, looking at the stat sheet, the thing that sticks out to me, about Louisville, which I knew coming in the game, is how good of a three-point shooting team that they are. Um, 14 made threes. 19 to 20. Really good free throw shooting team as well. A lot of that is always going to be hard to overcome when you only make threes. When you only make three threes, excuse me. Uh, but for me, proud of my team for coming in here fighting. We didn't, we didn't do that the other night against UVA, and so to come in here against a team like this that has the offensive firepower that they have, I thought we did a really good job, and I thought we fought and we had our pockets where I thought we were really good, and we put a little stress on their defense. So again, really good team Louisville is, and a team that has an opportunity to, if they, and I know how you think this time of the year, and I've been there. They're trying to run off a string of wins. It's normally the hottest team this time of year that usually takes off as the ACC tournament and the NCAA tournament approaches. I don't, at this juncture, you're just trying to find the right combinations, But I would say, even in today's game, we started just fast forward into the second half. We started off slow, and then we played really well. But then the moment the game got in striking distance, we started playing fast. We started doing the things that hurt us the first 4 minutes of the game. It's the consistency of it. You just got to be consistent. Sometimes you make or miss shots. That happens. But if you consistently and you grind and you do different things, I think that you can continue to put pressure on defense. And then the one thing about it is, what go unnoticed in the stat sheets, we played too big. I went too big a lot longer than what I usually do, and I thought Cole and Bai really played well together. But those pockets of games and the turnovers, we can't turn the ball over. Again, I always say this: the margin of error for us is not a lot. So we got to be careful in the things that we're trying to do on the floor.
Coach, Louisville plays 11 guys, normally in their rotation. How difficult is it when you have so many? They tend to sub a lot. They sub early. As far as just the scout and kind of keeping track of who's on the court, how difficult is that for your team?
It's not difficult. I mean, Louisville's a good team, but it's kind of like a football team. That you throw a bunch of check downs and then you're looking for home runs. They start the game off as all number zero. When he come out, then they give it to number three. And then throw a misdirection up there, you're gonna see McNeely fly off a ball, fly off some pin downs and get some shots up. I mean, it's kind of like one of them things, and that's how I see it. I see it as like 1, 2, 3, and then you throw Hadley up in there, and you try to tell our guys, but you got to be really seasoned to know basketball. Hadley in the post, man, he's not trying to score. He's just trying to suck people in and throw that ball out and get a three. But that's seasoning, and it's things that you really got to lock into on a consistent basis. But they're a really good team, though. Because they move the ball. When you got shooting like that and the way you can move the ball, and then you got guys who can attack for a closeout, it just put a lot of stress on your defense. Again, we played against some really good three-point shooting teams, and the thing about it is you just gotta keep rotating. That when you play a team that has multiple three-point shooters on the floor, you're gonna eventually give something up, and it just seemed like everybody we play, uh, you know, whether we play deep into the shot clock, they're knocking down contested shots at times, but you play against a team like you played played this afternoon, it makes it that much harder. You know, I mean, you don't normally have your second leading scorer averaging 18 and shooting 40 from the three. You know, that's difficult. And a guy that in this league last year was dang near all league, like he get a shot every now and again, but he still goes 4 for 4 when he get those shots. So those you gotta account for that, and it makes it hard. And so you're just scrambling, and you know, it's not from lack of effort, you know, but I think that to your point of what you asked in the earlier question, if you can score, then it can alleviate some of those things. And when we go through scoring droughts, that hurts because when you get the game back manageable, those threes hurt a little more.
Yeah. Where do you think Brown stacks up just in terms of, the freshmen in the ACC this year and just, when you're looking at like point guards in general in the conference?
You know, I thought I thought coming into the season before he even hit college, he was the best one in our conference. I seen him a lot. You know, obviously he was at OTE, so I seen him, and you know, he's one of them guys that, you know, he's gonna play a long time. You know, as long as he stays injury free. He sees the floor. He can shoot the ball. But more importantly, in the recruiting process of what I seen when I recruited him, and he works when nobody's looking, and I think that's the thing that always stands out with me, and so always stood out with me. Excuse me, and so I don't even think he's really reached his potential. I think that as he goes along, he'll get better. So, you know, I think he's, you know, one of the best freshmen in the league. You know, I'll probably go Boozer. Well, not in no particular order, but, you know, Boozer and Wilson at the top, and then he's, you know, right there, right underneath them. Yeah.
Coach, as tough as this stretch has been this last month, 9 in a row, how much you still preaching your team that, you know, even the last 4 games you can turn this around and win some games and make a run in the tournament? And do you feel like they're still kind of listening to that, or is it kind of turned off in the last month?
Well, you know, with kids, it's easy for them to look at 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the road, but it's my job to keep them focused on winning the day. And I've been in these situations before. I haven't been in these situations in college, you know, not necessarily, you know, as a coach, but, you know, I've been in these situations as a player. And, you know, I think the biggest thing I try to say to them and I talk to them about is, you know, playing with a sense of pride, you know, not having an agenda, not letting selfishness creep in, because a lot of times what as an older guy and somebody that's been in their position, you know, you actually got to be careful of how it looks or how you're playing out there. And so I talk to them a lot about that. And you know, the guys have bought in. You know, they're playing hard. Like I said, we didn't get the same effort on Wednesday night, but you know, I'm just gonna keep on preaching, man. It is what it is, you know. And so I think that as long as they can look at their head coach, man, you know, what won't break me gonna make me, and that's how I always been. So I ain't, you know, so they see me. It's the basketball coach, it's the mentorship, it's the leader of men. At this time, it has to take over because I gotta each and every day. I still gotta get them to pick their heads up regardless, and that's how I feel about it. All right.